Are you a simp? Know thyself here. Take a quick second to help a brother out. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that notification bell so you are up to date on all of the content when I release it. So for today, I wanted to get into this topic. This topic has been something that's been on my radar for a while. On my Instagram page, I have some men who will send DMs to me asking me questions about their relationships, and so I'll take some time to just give them my perspective, give them my advice. But what I'm noticing is that as men, as we get older, like as we get into our 20s, and for some of us as we get into our 30s, there is a programming that we have undergone. Maybe you might call it brainwashing, that we have undergone that has really put us at a serious disadvantage when it comes to how we relate to the world. One of the biggest things that we have been programmed to be is to be overly nice and submissive to the favor and the whims of women. And when you get down and drill down into the more extreme versions of that, or not even just extreme, but maybe first level version of a man who is overly submissive and agreeable. I guess the word, instead of submissive, I want to say agreeable. Overly agreeable to a woman, you start to get into this category of a simp. Simp is spelled S-I-M-P, and it has an Urban Dictionary definition. I'm going to read it really quickly. A simp, this is the one I found that I liked, it is when a male is overly submissive to a female and gains nothing from it. So overly submissive that other guys cringe and feel ashamed when seeing them. This applies to males in relationships when they are so submissive that they literally say anything to be in favor with the female. Now, with the OnlyFans culture that we have and the sort of promiscuity that we have in our culture today, we have created a subsection of our male population that are professional simps. And I'm not saying that some of these guys, the guys who message me, are simps. What I'm saying is that it's so ingrained in what it means to be a man, a modern day man, that you have to actively root out the programming, the defective programming that you were installed when you were a child and a young adolescent boy growing up. You have to actively pursue that and root that poison out of your system if you want to gain any of your self-respect and dignity back. And so before you could do any of that, you have to recognize that you are engaged in simp behavior. So simp behavior would be doing things for women and getting nothing from it. You would not do this. Well, let me stop right there. There are a lot of men who are simps for women, and there are also simps for every other part of their life, including the relationship that they have with their friends, their relationship, meaning the way they relate to their family, the way that they relate to their community, and possibly even their job. So being a simp is not just relegated to the fact that you might do this with a potential partner. You can be a simp for your job. The people who put in the OT without pay, the people who show up to work and are overly trying to gain favor, but they are putting everyone else under the bus in order to get it. The people who, go out of their way to show that they're a good employee, but then when it comes to their negotiation for their raise, they don't fight to get that raise that they have earned. These are the people who submit to the whims of their family. So someone in their family may call them and then they just go running. So if you are potentially a simp for the woman you're with, you could just as much be a simp for your parents or your sisters or your aunties or your uncles. And then now your family is fighting over really who you're going to be the bigger simp for. So that core, the core of that definition is a male who's overly submissive and gains nothing from it. Now, who you're submissive to could change, right? You don't necessarily have to be submissive to a woman. You could be submissive to the whims of a friend. I have seen guys who will drop everything to tend to one of their male friends, and a lot of times, especially if that friend is another woman, then you could be with your significant other, your relationship person, drop things with them to tend to the whims of a female friend. This is where your simp-ship, shout out to Dennis Sperling who talks about the simp-ship, is at its most active. And so what you need to do is figure out if this is, first off, you need to interrogate your mind to figure out if this is you. If it is you, and to a certain degree, all of us have a little bit of it if we were raised in a Western culture, especially if you were raised with a single mother or you were raised with both parents, but your father was a weak parent. Then a lot of times, a lot of young men will grow up and they will be simps. And it's not that it is necessarily a bad thing. It is a negative if you are trying to build a fulfilled life. If you're trying to build a life worth substance, with boundaries and morals and principles and guidelines and standards, then being a simp is the antithesis of that. Being a simp is the opposite of that. You can't be a man with morals, standards, and boundaries and principles and also be a simp. So you have to get that programming out so that you can put programming of having a backbone in. Now, how do you have a backbone? Morals, standards, principles, boundaries. What are your morals, meaning you're right or wrong? What are your standards, the criteria by which you conduct your own life? What are your principles? These are the guiding forces that move your life from point A to point B. And then what are your boundaries? The things that you will not allow from other people. So when you get those four things squared away, morals, standards, boundaries, and principles, then it's difficult to fall back into simp behavior because you'll be like, well, I can't just do what this woman asked me to do. I can't just drop everything because I have an obligation or a responsibility to this other thing that I'm doing. I have a path. I don't tolerate it when people just treat me this way. I am not the type of person that allows people to, I give and then they don't reciprocate. One of the biggest ways to know if you're a simp is if you give and then the person or the entity or the organization or the job or the family member that you give to does not show any reciprocation back towards you, meaning you're always the one making the effort, they're making no effort towards you. So this is one of the quickest, easiest ways for you to figure out if the simp chip is active within you. And once you figure that out, take the necessary precautions or the necessary steps to root it out. Now, how do you root it out? You establish boundaries. You establish standards in your life. You get some morals about you, and then you get a guiding principle of how your life is going to move and where you're going to go in your life. Once you establish those 4 basic things, the simp chip inside of you starts to get rooted out, because then now you have a framework with which to live your life. Once you get that framework going, it's virtually impossible for you to submit to someone and get nothing from it. It is almost impossible for you to give to people at that point without understanding what is the purpose of giving. Are you just giving because it makes you feel a certain way? Are you giving because it's helping the greater good? One of the biggest things that you could understand about being a simp is actually being a simp makes you a bad person, because you're not honest in the way in which that you conduct your life. Being a simp is being dishonest, and honesty is one of your morals. So if you're going to say, I'm going to be honest with myself, then you can't be a simp, because you can't give to people and not expect anything back. That's going to build resentment in you eventually. So, and I'll do another video soon about those 4 basic those 4 principles: morals, standards, boundaries, and principles. And we'll talk more about how to establish those so that you can root out that simp behavior. But in recap, go through your mind and figure out the times in which you've been a simp and how you would overcome it if this is something that it applies to you. But I would suspect that for so many people, especially a lot of men out here in the Western culture, being a simp is something that it's just a default way that we're taught and socialized. So with that being said, quit being a simp, root it out in your mind, establish some principles of how to live your life, and get that simp out you. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to my content. Again, as always, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell so you're up to date on all of my content. I will see you guys on the next video. Take care of yourself.